večer. Vítejte na na přednášce Francka Aperteta, který nám představí tvorbu francouzské skupiny Uterpan, kterou společně tvoří s Annie Vigier a z pozice bývalých choreografů vytvářejí kritický dialog mezi obvyklými praktikami vizuálního umění a performačního umění. Zabývají se metodickým posunem norem a vzorců výtvarného umění, nebo mezi poli výtvarného umění a živého umění. A vlastně Franck je tady od pondělí. Většina z vás jsou studenti, kteří od pondělí byli součástí jeho dílny, která je součástí celku nazvaného Škola zapomnění. A vlastně je to jedna ze škol vzdělávacích experimentálních projektů, které jsme připravili na podzim letošního roku v rámci z tého výročí Bauhausu. Kromě školy zapomnění, která je určena teda většině z vás jako studentům Fakulty umění Ostravské univerzity, tak na začátku září proběhla mezinárodní škola výrazu, která byla určena mladým kurátorům a umělcům. Od poloviny září také běží škola myšlení, určená studentům střední umělecké školy Poděbradovy. A tento cyklus experimentálních vzdělávacích projektů zakončíme na konci listopadu seminářem kritický. Tolik na úvod ode mě. Přeju zajímavý večer a předávám slovo Franckovi.
Okay. So, good evening for the ones I didn't meet before. So, yes, I want to introduce the work of les gens d'Uterpan by this picture, because it's a body, and it's coming also from the interest we had over the standardization of the human body regarding the context, and it's a process we engage from the position of choreographer we had at the beginning, and we thought it was much more important and interesting to question exactly the practice of dance, but also the context in which this practice is presented, and after also to question the dimensions of presentation you can have in the fine arts, also regarding exhibition, and also this link that exists between the living arts and the visual arts regarding performance. So it's a process we engage with Annie Vigier and since 1994. So we follow the different steps as dancer at the beginning, then as choreographer, then as a researcher also, and we dedicate our activity much more to experimentation than only creating choreographies or using the stage. I introduce now some different works of les gens d'Uterpan, and to follow my explanation regarding what is the purpose of les gens d'Uterpan. So we are here in the situation of a work called X Event 0, and this is a work on stage, but we decided to hide totally what will be the purpose of the performance of the evening to the audience and also to the director of the festival. So the director accepted to program this work without knowing what it was. So we let him know that it was a show on stage, but at last it was only the machine and the system of the theater only turning without any things proposed on stage. So we are in the situation of the evening. The audience was here, and they were waiting for something to happen on stage, but nothing never happened. It was important for us at this moment when we started to work with the fine arts context, also to position the possibilities given to this context of fine arts, also regarding what is the economy and what is the production in the living arts. So this experience of emptiness has been produced years ago in context of exhibition, with the exhibition of emptiness, for instance, in the 50s. And regarding the living arts, it puts in evidence also what is expected to the artist in that context. And also because of the tickets the audience have to pay, what they want to have in exchange of their money. So we decided to be radical and to ask this question not with explanations, but really by producing this concrete relation of theater audience with the fact that the evening should be only the question put on the table by the artist, that his responsibility and also his work is not supposed to adhere and to be only someone who is putting inside a box a kind of production that is supposed after to be an exchange of money. And the artist also in the theater, in the dance, should decide also to question his own practice and the sense given to his work because of the frames, because of the context of the situation of the theater. This situation created a long debate at the evening because the audience started to ask, where are the artists? I want my money back if there is nothing to see. So the director of the festival has to also come on stage and to say, sorry, I don't know what's happened. I wasn't aware about what's going on. So the audience also turned back to him to say, but you accept to produce and to program some project without knowing what it is exactly. And he explained that he thinks it's his role, I mean, also to question and not only to produce some program season after season with things. So the situation of Les Gens d'Uterpan at this moment, it was in 2008, started to be also a kind of position situate not against the system, but really exposing what is the walls and what is the context given to the artist as a producer of art. We always, in the work of Les Gens d'Uterpan, use elements coming from the practice of dance or the practice of the stage, of the theater. In time after, in 2014, a gallery in Paris decided to invite us as artists, presented by them. So the first work we decided to do for the first show of Les Gens d'Uterpan in that gallery was not a performance, was not inviting dancers or producing actions, but it was much simple than this. It was only creating a situation of the floor of the gallery itself. So we use a reference that exists in the theater since the Renaissance time, that is to set a stage that is a slope. So this stage that exists in theater since the 16th century is still now, maybe you know that to enhance and to produce a better penetration of the gaze on the stage is made like a slope in direction of the audience. So we built really this slope floor inside the gallery, as you can see on the picture, because on the side, at the bottom of the wall, you see this kind of white line that gives the degree of slope of the floor. And we ask also the gallery to accept to put everything, even the offices, the desk, and the things over, again, this slope. So we wanted, by this action, to put on stage the gallery itself, and to say that our action was now a kind of experimentation of furniture that we create that was taken from the theater and put inside the gallery. So this work, called Scena all'Italienne, it means Italian style stage, has been also invited and presented in Documenta, the last one, Documenta 14, and we built the stage, this slope, inside Documenta Halle in Kassel, and the floor was not dedicated to welcome any show, any performance. It was only a kind of agora, of space given to the audience as an experience, but also it was putting on stage Documenta itself, because regarding the invitation to Documenta, it was interesting for us to question what is exactly the meaning of this social big mess of Documenta. So we wanted again to put underneath a kind of element that shows that Documenta is really a kind of social system that put in evidence who is one of the protagonists of art today. So this stage has been maintained during all the duration and became for the audience also a kind of place where they gather. And sometimes when they took a rest, some people came to sleep on it because it was really comfortable. The stage was made really with the material that is used to make a dance floor for classical dance or else. So it's quite smooth, and it's made with a nice wood that don't produce a big sound, but is really really perfect also to stand on it. I will speak after about another work that was presented in Kassel, and some works also that has been presented in Athens. That was the second part, the first part of Documenta this time. I come back again to this strategy called caster. It's just like an audition, casting. And in France, we can say caster someone means to give test to someone just to find elements of the personality, of the skills. So this time we wanted also to integrate the notion of authority that goes over the audience also regarding the institution. And we wanted also to transmit this authority from the institution over the audience by a presence and an action of Annie and I as choreographer invited in the context of the institution. So this picture has been taken in Kunsthal Basel in Switzerland because we had been invited there, and we announced on a closed door that if the audience come inside this room, they will immediately participate to the strategy called caster. And the strategy is only to select the audience by asking them some very simple action that permit to us as choreographer to detect some special skills they have but they don't know what kind of skills it is. It's not the blondes with the blondes and the tall with the tall, but it's something that is much more spatial in dance and that we have the knowledge and we can detect on the people. And we make this kind of selection very fast. It means that we control totally the time of the time of the situation of the audience inside the room with us. And this is a circumstance of this same work, but it was in Shanghai, in China. And we transmit the authority of the institution into an obedience of the audience. Because to resume the situation, the audience find this artist in that big institution. It means for them that this artist is a good one. So even if we ask them to do some very strange things, they obey. They do it because they trust in what we are doing. So it's really a transfer of the domination and the authority of the institution over the audience through the knowledge and also the image of the choreographer. This is also the cue, because the interest of the people is of course really strong regarding a question of selection, and we play also with this kind of curiosity that people have to know who they are through the experience of art also. We wanted also to question the impact also of the context presenting art with another procedure. This time we name this procedure anthropometry, and it's a situation of the visitor driven because of the organization and the setup of an exhibition. So we asked to some participants to work with us during for the exhibition as participants of the work of Les gens d'Uterpan, and they only produce their displacement and their stops and their situation inside the museum only because of the corridors, of the size of the tables and all the dimension there is. The interest this time is not anymore the work of art, but much more how the body is controlled and produce its displacement in response of the museum, of the architecture. It was also talking about this fact that more and more museum becomes work of art in itself, and they are also produced as a work of art and without sometimes thinking about what will be the possibilities given to the work to be presented in it. So this is the sentence you can read because there is an information given to the audience. This time it's written in Italian. It was in Bologna, in the Pavillon de l'Esprit Nouveau, with a kind of replica of the pavilion built by Le Corbusier for the Architecture National exhibition in Paris in 1925. So the sentence tells that some people in this building are producing their displacement and stops only in response to the context and the qualities of the building. So this sentence creates a kind of paranoia inside the exhibition, because by reading and to be informed that what's going on, the audience can look back to the other visitors thinking that they should be maybe the performers. So the audience is not looking at the work anymore, but much more to the audience itself. And when someone look at them, they can imagine that this guy is thinking, I am supposed to be the performer also. So we transform also the situation of the exhibition space into an attention that is going back to the visitors and to the conditionment of the audience inside the museum. So you have a picture of this replica of the Pavillon de l'Esprit Nouveau in Bologna. And it was interesting at that point, because you know, of course, that in the architecture of Le Corbusier, the dimension of the human body was totally present everywhere. So it was a kind of architecture made up because of the human body, and we reintroduce also the behavior of the visitors because of that building. Now I propose to see that and to explain you that work. It was at a moment for us interesting as choreographers who were working much more and more in context of exhibition, also to question the destiny and the future of the living. To question the notion of living inside the museum. The museum, of course, welcomed performance in the history of art, but it was connected with the avant-garde so often. Now it's a little different, of course, but in history, the living was present for a few moments, and then after it was in the museum, there is only the archives, photographs, objects of this moment of the living in the museum. So we wanted to produce at the same moment the living enter the museum, the process of the museum that immediately quit the living aspect of the work to transform it into object. So we work with dancers inside a given space where the work will be presented. The audience cannot see this moment. And here it's in the context of CAC Vilnius in Lithuania. And we work for 2 weeks with dancers from the country. And we ask them to do with us a choreography of 4 hours, but the choreography is only made by their answer to the qualities and dimension of the space. The light, the entrance, as you can see. So every artist produced their displacement and movements only because of some reasons given by the space, by the context. After this process of interpretation of this given space, as you can see on the floor, we can draw the limits of the choreography. I mean, the dancer, the decision of the dancer never went over that limit. They only moved inside a kind of shape that is inside the space. And here you can see the drawing of this kind of shape we give to the museum, and after they built some walls that are really shaping exactly the dimension of the choreography on the floor. And then, after this process of construction, the choreography and the walls, the exhibition opens and welcomes the visitors. And at this moment, the visitors encounter a kind of enormous minimal sculpture where they cannot enter. They just can turn around. So this structure takes more than the 50% of the space given normally to the visitor. So it engages in itself also another choreography of walking around by the visitors. And sometimes the dancer comes inside because a wall can move, but nobody knows which wall will move. And the dancer come and do the choreography. So you understand that at this moment the walls of the museum are totally hiding the living. So the process of the museum has been handed and it's over, that the living is here, but you cannot, what you can see is only the shape that the living made in that room. And the visitors can only have a connection with what's happened by the sound or the vibration of the floor, because the choreography inside is a real choreography, very, very strong one. And the situation that normally existing in the theater, I mean the audience facing the stage and the artist, is here also, because the artist is here, the audience is here, but their relation is transformed into another type of attention and participation also to the work. So this work also has been invited in Documenta, and we decided to do this work in Athens with Greek dancers that has been hired to make the project, because when this invitation to participate to Documenta came, we think that it was interesting to dedicate some physical and dancing action to Greek people, because we could give them a work and a salary also. So it was also a work that questions the border of Europe at this moment also. Now, back to the theater. We wanted at the moment to make understandable and visible that the production of the artist is not only made by him or her alone, but it's a kind of group of forces that also pushes around him, and that makes that his or her creation is really the result of a process that engages the responsibility of much more people than only the artist and his idea or his purpose to make. So we wanted to challenge with a kind of work the responsibility of the stakeholders into the work of the artist. And it was possible by using the theater. I mean, an evening at the theater is something that it's quite rigid, and it's really now well recognized and well accepted by the audience. When you come in a theater, they open the door, you wait before the door opens, then you come inside, you go on your seats, you have about 10 minutes, not more, to do your last call, to say hi to people, and after the black comes, the darkness, you look straight on, and when it's finished, you quit immediately. So the time, the process in the theater is something that is really authoritarian process, and we use this moment of 10 minutes where you still have a kind of freedom to introduce a possible interpretation of who are the co-authors of the work of the artist. So when someone wants to present this piece, the name is parterre, the person, the sponsor, it could be a curator, Documenta also ask for have one parterre. They accept not to know when and where the piece will happen. So they sign as blind people a contract that will take their names as the responsible of the action, and this action will happen in a theater. And the theater itself don't know that the things will happen this evening. Nobody knows. This blind situation is made that because we want really to have the reaction of the people on time. The sponsor, the theater, the audience, everybody. So we buy some tickets for an evening in the city, and we come as the people of the audience that evening. And at a moment, just when you see at the back that people are still climbing up into these stairs, we stand up, we give the name of the sponsor, we give the name of the work, and we climb also to the top, and we roll after over the audience slowly until the bottom of the audience rows. Then we quit the clothes and we do it one more time naked. So this this action is also produced inside the theater because the theater also creates a kind of confrontation between the stage of the audience, and the notion of domination is really strong inside the theater, because the audience is also judging, is over the stage, and with parterre we transform the situation, as you can see on the picture, that the audience turn back to the audience. And what's happened this evening is much more a question of what is supposed to be a theater and what the audience comes to find into a theater. And the situation of having someone over you is not, of course, usual, because even naked people, they are supposed to stay at distance on stage, but this time you have with you. So you participate also to the work. So it means that some of the audience accept the situation, and some other things that it's not allowed, and they are not here to have this kind of relation. It's the same for the director. Of course, the director said nothing can happen in the theater without my agreement. So they kind of take in charge their responsibility as very paternalist character over the audience, telling that I know my audience, I make my program, I give the knowledge to the citizen through my program. So this also dimension of what I suggest to the people to have as an experience, it's me that I have to decide of that. And also because the press, maybe which is present at this evening, can also interpret in a different way what's going on inside the theater. For them, sometimes it's interesting because there is something to tell that is different than the habit of the evening. So, I mean, this action was also in conscious made to explode really what is this unity, this stone that the theater has produced after centuries of evolution. Because we give back the responsibility to interpret the event to the audience, to the director, to the artist also on stage, because the artist also that has to make the show after didn't knew that the thing will happen. And also to the press itself as how they can give a commentary about this action. And also to the institution itself. Because we decided also to open the answer of the angry against parterre also to the institution, and because of this work we accepted to lose the support of the Ministry of Culture in France, because when they realized that we were doing this work, they decided to cut all the money they give to us and asking us, you have to stop immediately to do that work. So we say no, we don't stop, because it's telling something also about the relation we have together with the institution. So we accepted to lose during 2 years the money, and also because this action, I think, is very interesting, not to produce every evening in every theater, but also to question what are the possibilities given to the artist today to question his own system of production. This picture is showing the policeman because it was in the context of the Biennale of Berlin. It was in 2010, and the Biennale bought 3 times of parterre. And at the end of this, the pictures before was in the Dutch opera, just before a classical ballet called La Bayadère. And so we have been locked into a room because of the action, and after they called the police, and the police helped us to make the director understand what's happening, because they said nobody has been hurt, nothing has been broken, they have the tickets to be in the theater, so the problem you have concerns much more what's happened now today in art than the problem with the police. And after, we had to call the curator of the Biennale, she was Catherine Romberg, and to say, Catherine, please, you have to come because they took the passport of us and we cannot go out of the theater. So she came and she explained to the director that she wanted to have this work, and she paid for that, and she took the complete responsibility of the work in Berlin this time. So if some problem could happen, it's now between the Biennale of Berlin and the Dutch Opera, and not with the artist. So the strategy reaches exactly the point that we wanted, is that all the responsible of the production of the artist was now engaged and involved into the defense and the explanation of what is creation today and what should be also the decision of the artist to question his own frame and context. And to finish, it's another work that has been presented in Documenta. It was in Kassel this time, and we wanted, as I explained, to question also the dimension of the work and the citizen in Greece, but in Kassel it was much more to question the power of Documenta itself as a reference for art. So we produced these two shelves and two bookstore with some books that talk about performance and dance from 2005 until 2017, that was the date of Documenta, that talk about the topic of performance and dance, but without any mention of Les gens d'Uterpan work. So it was a kind of existence in contrast of what produced also art history regarding an event like Documenta. So the book has been found. The shelves on the left is from France, and the other has been made in Germany. And it was also a resource because a lot of students and people came because these books are really rare. We took a long time to find them, and so the people also used this library to have some reference anyhow about something else. But the question of producing a counter action regarding how and who is writing history was also interesting because of the context of Documenta. And it's also two shelves because in the history also of furniture, in the 19th century, we started to have in the very bourgeois houses this kind of furniture making double or in four, the same, just to rhythm the interior of the house. And it was also the same moment that we started to write the dance. Not as a choreography, but to make books about the language of choreography. So this history happened together, also the classical writing of dance and also these elements that could also represent the choreographers of Les gens d'Uterpan, I mean Annie Vigier and Franck Apertet. So it was our last question we wanted at this moment to propose to the audience and also to the team of Documenta. And we have also the habit to really register precisely our work. So we started with the process X7. This was much more questioning the presence of the dancer and the choreographer inside the exhibition by protocols and physical action. Then we moved to another cycle that was called reaction. It was much more engaging the responsibility of the stakeholders inside the creation of the artist. And then we moved to the third process that is much more questioning the role of delegation. Also how we transmit. And for Italian style stage is the entrance of this new process to delegate also the action to without our presence. So that time, I would like to thank very much Marek. No, because yes, he invited les gens d'Uterpan also to drive a workshop with students. So by this invitation also we introduced the practice of les gens d'Uterpan to the students and tried to make them understand what means to be les gens d'Uterpan, because every people who are also practicing our work is also are engaged in kind of risk. And I think that the students also realized that what we were talking about was challenging these boundaries. Also, I came with Steve, who is here, with a dancer from Les Gens d'Uterpan since a long time. So now he's also assistant. So the principle of delegation and also open the identity as Les Gens d'Uterpan to other people is also included in the way of thinking we have with Annie. And for me, it was also the opportunity to discover this incredible place that Plateau is. And I could see with pictures I heard about, but to be in that context and to feel all the possibilities given by the transformation of a store into a place of production and also exhibition was very a stimulation also for me to engage the students to understand much more that what is possible regarding practice, regarding also a frame of school, or regarding also what they can imagine for their future as artists. So with Steve, we really use this time to make experience with them, and I think it was a nice moment together. We worked inside, but we went often outside in the public space also, because this dimension of comparing what is given by the context of an art exhibition, even if it's a store, a former store, but also regarding the public space. That means that in public space there is some rules that are still here and that was here before we decided to go there. So it's what makes the public space interesting, because the stage in the theater could be seen as a white page, always a white page, even in New York, even in every country, it's always the same white page you have. An exhibition space is also talking about context, but it's also a separate environment and situation, and public space is something that is always changing, and that we have also the responsibility by our behavior. And we know that more and more the situation of public space is becoming much more instrumentalized by the capitalism and by the notion of areas dedicated to some action. Here you go to shop, here you go to drink, here you go to walk, here you go with your children. That makes also the responsibility of public space something also important in the process of our heart is totally now moving away and taking in charge many aspects of the society today, even the politics. That's all. Yes, yes. If you have questions, of course. But where is the next? I don't know. Maybe you don't have. The situation was 3 hours duration at last. Yes, because we also organized this kind of evening by letting the doors very close a long time. So the people was waiting like this. And suddenly we opened the door, so the audience came, and now they wait. And after, some people say, but start to speak loud and to say, it's les gens d'Uterpan, there is a kind of problem there, we know them, they are doing some strange things. So people started to exchange together. Someone stand up and start to dance on the stage to say, I will make the show. So people say, no, please don't do that. So they started to talk together. And after they asked, we want Annie Vigier and Franck Apertet here immediately, we want to question them. So we were, of course, there, but in another place. So we came, and people started to question and say, why you did that? Why? So we continued to discuss, and the audience stay here. And after the director, after giving explanation, say, so now we have to leave the stage, but I suggest to offer you a drink just to the next room. So everybody came, and we continued to discuss this time with wine and things like that. But it was the critics and also the professional were not very okay with that. And after I met some people, they say that we were breaking the base of what is living arts. And we were touching something that is very dangerous, the confidence of the audience regarding the programmer, regarding the theater. So they were much more telling us that it was, and I said, no, for me it's not a problem, because it's not a new rule. It's just an experience for one evening. We don't have that now. Everybody has to do an empty show every evening. So it's always the problematic that we had, that people think that what we were doing was kind of prescription, that now art should be that. We always say, no. It's okay to have choreography on stage, to have play on stage. It's perfect. It's just that maybe a stage could be used to say something else, also sometimes. But the audience was quite okay. It's okay.
Okay, now it works.
I can hear you laughing. You want to take a bath? Maybe some of the students also can tell something about the experience, because it's concrete, it's now. They are too tired. So,
Já doufám, že ta explikace nebo prezentace Franckova ve vás vyvolala
complex and complicated system what we are trying to do here. This doesn't mean that it has only the intellectual aspects, but it's obvious in choreography, in what they do, and it has a deep psychophysical experience and reflection of what happens with us as a whole. How it is inscribed in how we are and who we are. So just in the margin.
Yes, I'm agree with what you are telling. We realized that we had the chance also by the practice of choreography and dance also to touch something that is quite also very special and important, also how we direct bodies, how also we use the body in some different ways, and this position of the choreographer regarding the dancer that is supposed to be his tool was also talking about the instrumentalization of the processes. And we realized that it should be very extraordinary to transform the practice into something that tells more than what it is. Because also the choreographer has a kind of presence over the people that creates also this relation to authority, very complex. And I mean, if I'm in a party and there is people dancing and I say I'm choreographer, people will start to dance differently because they imagine that I will see some things. It's just a joke, but there is this kind of also cultural situation given by the choreographer that we exploited also. It was interesting to do that.
It's something exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Public space is also present in many works. Mm-hmm. Yes. But when we decide of parterre, where parterre will happen, we always try to find a connection regarding the place. For instance, the first time we decided to do it in Pompidou, in Centre Pompidou, which is a kind of museum for contemporary art, and where people come to find what is the best level of the experimentation and the avant-garde. So we didn't want to create a bad surprise. And sometimes we decided also of parterre regarding what is on stage that evening. For instance, one time we decided to do in a theater because the evening was Lucinda Childs, and she is a choreographer from the 70s in the US, and she was also engaged in this kind of performance existence in the US. So for us, the audience was also here because they knew this artist. So it was for us a possibility to renew what is performance today. After, of course, with the Dutch opera, the situation was not because we love classical dance, but it was much more to put in balance two strong institutions, the Dutch opera and the Biennale of Berlin. It was because of the level of the institution that we decided to go to the Dutch opera. Okay.
Já se omlouvám, já jsem to otázku nepochopila. Proč byli, já jsem nebo neslyšela jsem dobře, omlouvám se. Aha, the question is in parterre, why were you naked? How can you explain why you did it with your clothes and then without clothes?
There is two time in parterre. The time with the clothes on is adjusting also the audience into an action. When we put out the clothes, the audience imagine totally that we will restart. So they laugh. And some people decide at this moment to jump out of the audience. And to replace the theater. I mean, they stay at distance just like they are at distance of the stage. They don't quit the theater. They only look at the people having the naked body on them. So this situation of the naked body is also talking about what today we find on stage. It's usual to have naked body in contemporary dance. A lot of choreographer use nudity. So now we reapproach also these possibilities given by the theater to have a kind of relation of your own body through the naked body of the dancer on stage. The transfer over the stage become a kind of situation that the people live in one at the moment. But we could decide to make naked immediately. But this situation will really be aggressive regarding the people. So we decided to do it with the clothes just to announce and give the possibility after to the audience to replace the situation of the theater.
Is there anything that surprises you in the Czech Republic when you come?
Oh. Surprises, what I would say. No, at the beginning I was surprised because when we were talking about time, I felt that time there has a kind of interpretation in the time that was different than mine, and I found it was interesting also. Because the engagement was really here, but this notion of starting and ending was something that was a little bit floating and a kind of personal interpretation. It's not a big surprise, but I like this also. Yes, yes. And I found also that yes, the people were very welcoming. We made the train, we took the train from Prague, and it's long, it's 3 hours and a half, and we were with some people inside, and it was nice. It's something that was totally different than what the experience I have. Yes. And no, I have good souvenir also. I had the opportunity to make the kiss with Jiří Kovanda, with a glass that separates the lips. And for me it was strong. Because I know, of course, his work, but I never met him before. And suddenly we were part of the same exhibition. And he said, I will make the kiss. Would you be the first one to do it? And I said, yes, of course, let's go. Yes, and it was something strong. Yes, it's a good memory for me. Mm. No, because it was much more complex than this. Because we worked with a group of participants, and they were spread with the audience. And when the people was waiting in front of the closed door, they were like this, telling what's happened, what is this thing, and they were turning to people, are you sure that something will happen? Or asking this kind of question that create a kind of a discussion between the people. And behind the door closed, we had prepared a sound that was a big applause. So at the moment when the tension was the most high, people say it's more than half an hour that we are here and nobody can answer what's happened. We launched the applauses, so people say, yeah. So maybe this evening is in 2 times, there is a first moment, and then we open the door, so the audience was totally motivated again, and they say, yes, so it's now. So we play a lot with the conditionment of the audience, with some signs that precise. And at the back of the room there is a mirror, because it's a theater but also a dance studio. So normally there is a curtain, but this time we open it, and some people who were here was also from the fine arts field, because they knew Les gens d'Uterpan. So the reference to Dan Graham's work was also for them quite clear. So they started also to engage. And so I heard, because I was hidden behind a wall, and I heard some people say, but it's a work from the artist Dan Graham you have in front of you. And so the discussion started also to be engaged always. But we took a big risk, because the press came to me and said, I need an interview of you about the work. So I told totally lies about what will happen. So we also prepared the audience. The director also, after he came, he said, you are a very fucking guy with your project, because maybe I will say nothing to anybody, but you should told me that this thing could happen, because he was home and he has to come back from home to talk. But it's also included in our way of working. We don't give explanation, and we don't announce before so many things. So, that's a way we have to do. And I heard one curator invited us in Paris, it was last week, and some other colleagues told him, you invite Les gens d'Uterpan, you are crazy, they are dangerous. And I said, that's a good compliment as an artist, because we are not killing anyone, we are not. But yes, to engage this kind of, to do something is to take a decision. And for us, many times, some works has been cancelled because of some things we did before. But it's a risk we accept to take. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Because I mean that it's also something maybe very special to France, but not really. Because the history of performance didn't has been taken seriously by the dance field. They thought that the Weiner and people from the US was proposing performance in the 60s. It was something separate to dance. It was some kind of test. and they retain only really the choreographers, Martha Graham, or the people we know from the postmodern dance. So when they also decided to continue the evolution of dance, it was always in the frame of the theater. It was always regarding the transformation of the vocabulary of dance into something else. It was not totally jumping out of that system. And there is many works that we are doing that are the continuation of some experience that has been made years ago. But there is also many Polish artists or from the East also that made a strong and big experience also as performance. And this thing has never been taken in account by the history of dance. So it was also interesting when we decided to stay, not to become fine artists, but to stay in the middle. To question the both sides, to question the continuation of performance in the fine arts as another level, and also to question the history of performance regarding the dance and the living art field. Because we realized that this was too much complex to resolve. And it was really the position of Les gens d'Uterpan that could also make exist this kind of conflict and deleting memory regarding so many aspects of performance. And we continue in France to be supported as choreographer. We have the money from the dance because it's separate. But people always say they don't have to do anymore anything in that field. So we are always explaining that by our presence we make the frames evaluate and change, and it's necessary also to continue to be there. But of course, the dance field say they do things in the public space. There is no tickets, there is nobody. They come into exhibition space. If you look at their calendar, it's only exhibitions and things like that. So there is also this kind of situation we maintain, because we need to have also the support of the institution. And we know that if we go to the fine art field, the economy will not be the same. So it's a kind of deal with some people in the dance that say we follow you also because you make this question really present and really interesting. But a lot of people say we don't want to hear anymore talking about Les gens d'Uterpan in the dance field. It's a selection not only for dance, but really performance. The connection between visual arts and living arts. These are the books that has been selected. And the date is coming also from 2005, because we made a publication. We had been in residency in an art center in Paris for a long time, where Pierre Valblanc was director. And he ordered to us a monography. He said, we need a monography about you, so I will pay, do a monography. So inside this monography, there is some works that are starting from 2005. So we decided with the library to use this similar date. It was, as to say, the really of Légion d'Uterpan into the fine arts field by this residency in Contemporary Art Center in Bretigny. Because from this moment, our activity became quite much more well-known in the fine arts than in the dance field. So we use the same dates. So, yeah, because I have to. Yes. Yes, yes, that's it, and it's also talking about the practice. I mean that it's a living. We could say, I don't like the word performance, but it's more simple to use it. It's an instant. It's something that it's on time. It's very short, and the confrontation of performance regarding the history and the writing and the production of what is also history. It's two different moments that has their own process and their own duration. So it was also this kind of disappearing inside the book. It was also questioning this status of how the living behave regarding the time of history, and regarding also the production of critics and commentaries through the bibliography we will have in the future. So it was not against the people who didn't write about us. He was much more also talking about this production of history regarding the living. So thank you.